Welcome to the Built Right Contractor Podcast, where we talk about business systems, growth strategies, and different things that you can do to make sure that your business is set up to succeed and set up to scale. My name's Brad Akers. Let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Built Right podcast. I'm excited that you're here, excited to really just dive in today to the main thing that we focus on and really the starting point for any of our clients. And so when I say the starting point, I mean the first thing we focus on is leverage. And in what we call the Built Right path, which is essentially the path that we work with our consulting clients on, we focus on leverage, and then we focus on leads, and then we focus on processes, and then we focus on team, and then we focus on scaling. And there's a very specific reason we do things in that order. So on this episode, we're just going to talk about the initial phase, the initial thing that we focus on, leverage. And I'm going to talk about why we start it then. So the first thing that we want to focus on is getting you more out of what you're doing. The roofing businesses oftentimes find the owners oftentimes kind of early on find themselves in a situation where they are just trading time for money, time for money, time for money. And that sounds obvious, but what you will see happening is in this time for money situation, like it's really difficult to actually begin building the infrastructure and the things that matter in the business. And it also can be very expensive. And when I say very expensive, I mean you get in a situation where you're needing to invest massive amounts of time to go generate a lead or an appointment, or you're needing to generate sales when you don't already have a big influx of sales and you have to spend a lot of money on advertising or on lead gen or on people even in order to do it. And it just makes getting off the ground difficult. And the thing that I've realized over time, and I've realized with working with a lot of people all over the country, was that the people that are able to grow the most and the people that have the most, I'm not going to say effortless as in it's doesn't require effort, the smoothest probably path to growing are people that have really strong processes of turning one job into multiple. And when we're looking at leverage, the big thing with leverage is you're putting in X amount of effort and not just getting a individual amount back. Like you're not just, okay, I'm in a 1-to-1 ratio. I'm putting in this amount of effort and I'm getting one sale. It's I'm putting in this amount of effort and then I'm getting one sale that's also leading to a next sale that required much less effort to generate, that moves to a next sale that required much less effort to generate. So it really begins to, over time, give you your time back. And that's the first thing we focus on, because before we start generating a pile of leads, I want to make sure that they're worth more. So before we get really focused on, okay, how can we generate leads? How can we get into new neighborhoods? How can we do this? We want to look at, what do you already have? Or what is the lowest hanging fruit that you have? And how could we turn that into multiple? So what we see is, like, within leverage, there's generally going to be there's Naval Ravikant, who's um, a entrepreneur, Silicon Valley angel investor. He has a book called The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. Great book, but he talks about 4 different types of leverage, and it's labor, capital, media, and technology. And with those 4 types of leverage, and this is Hormozy, if you listen to him, talks about this a lot. But with those four types of leverage, there's some that just kind of have different degrees. And most people go immediately to trying to create leverage, generate leads with capital, but they don't have capital yet. Um, Sometimes people go and try to create leads with leverage, and that's why the 1099, the commission only sales rep is popular. But at the end of the day, they're just going to have to go into this low leverage system themselves. Some people try to use uh like create like branding and all that, but that can take time. So you might be in a situation to where you're working on this stuff and you're doing all these things, but it might not immediately get you where you want to be. Like you might make the pretty logo, you might make everything look good, you might get all organized and um post these great posts and do blog posts and have the fancy website and all those things, but that doesn't just immediately make roofing relevant to people. That doesn't immediately make it so people just can find you right when they need you. And then some people will go all into tech. So they're going to get the roofing instant estimator and they're going to get their CRM set up and build all the automations. And these are like maybe the more business oriented people. Hello, Maggie. Um, so all these things are going to get you in a situation to where it's difficult to like grow because you don't really have a good place to create momentum here. And that's really the big point that I'm trying to make is if we don't have an organized way to actually create momentum and create leverage that actually matches what resources you have, then it's going to be difficult to get off the ground and it's going to be difficult to really like know why what's working. So all that intro was to say processes are another form of leverage that I don't know why Naval Ravikant doesn't talk. He talks about the people that would be doing the processes, but he doesn't talk about how certain processes where you can kind of take the critical thinking out can get the leverage. And I think that's one of the strongest ways to create leverage and give you your time back in business initially is okay, as the owner, let's go out there, validate a process that gets us max efficiency, gets us more for what we're putting out than just the average way of doing it. Let's figure out the best way of doing something. Then let's document it. Then let's have someone else do it for us and take advantage of that. Or then let's look at how could we make this process that's already efficient and already working work better with more tech. So, like the starting point of creating leverage within business, oftentimes is a process. Even if you used media, marketing, the process of putting your brand out there and turning it into leads requires knowledge and an understanding of like the efficient way. So, it's a step people skip or think that they need to, I'm going to work on my processes this year. That's my goal. But in reality, this should be one of the first things you do. It shouldn't be one of the first things you do and keep you from actually going out and working, but you should look at what's a process that can immediately begin giving me an ROI on my time that can make my business worth more, that can make my jobs worth more. And in my opinion, that's how can I turn every job into more jobs? If I get an inspection, what's a process that I can create that will turn that inspection into potentially more inspections? What are all the things that I can do when I'm on build day? And that's a time, especially as a new company. If you don't have a project manager yet, you're out there, you're trying to help the crew so they can see that you're not above them. You're bringing some bundles around, you're going and running material, you're doing all these, you're talking to the homeowner a little bit. There's a lot of time that goes into that. How can we use that time and make it go further? And then once we have put a lot of effort into giving our customers a fantastic and I would say a referral worthy experience, how do we make sure that that results in something more positive than just a Google review? And I'm not saying that we want to give them such a great experience only so that they can give us referrals. We want to do it just because it's the right thing to do. But a nice benefit of it is they'd be willing to give you referrals. So if they would W what we say referral worthy, then let's help them give you referrals. So that's where we focus. And so where we focus is how can we turn one job into multiple as one of the very, very first things that we work with our clients on. And I call I think the title of this episode is going to be The Power of Three, because I think it's one of the easiest ways to illustrate how amazing this can be. If you are doing one job and that one job generates 3 additional inspections as a result of the things you do, all the way starting at that first inspection and on build day, and in order to generate a referral, and then you are able to turn one of those, you close a third of those inspections, you just turned one job into another job. So the power of three, and that 1-to-1 doesn't sound great, but imagine if you did that with 15 jobs, and each of those jobs got you 3 additional inspections. And then you closed a third of each of those additional inspections. So you just turned 15 jobs into 30 jobs. What happens with those extra jobs that you just generated? Can you run a similar process and turn those into more? The answer is yes. You can continue to deliver a referral worthy experience and get in front of their networks. You can continue to work some of their neighbors if it's a new area, or if it's the same area, you just have more exposure to the same neighbors that you were working just a little bit ago. And so the first thing I want you to do before you start spending a bunch of money on Facebook ads or SEO or trying to make your brand look amazing and getting the crazy website and all that, which is not bad stuff. A lot of people think I'm anti-marketing agency. And sometimes, like in my advertising, I poke at them because I do think there's a lot of just misinformation around what they're telling you need to do. But I'm not anti-marketing agency. In fact, I think it's great when someone is going to pour fuel on the fire of the process that gets them one job for one job and helps the process that turns one job into multiple. But I want you to make sure that you do that, you invest that money, that time, that effort once you already have a leverage process, one that gives you more leverage, one where you can spend less time generating the job, less money generating the job, one where it creates further and pushes you further down the know, like, and trust factor. So you're closer to the sale on those inspections than you would be on a cold inspection. I want you to put your effort and energy and focus into those, because if and when you do, then you're going to be able to make everything you do go further. So the reason we do that flow is, let's build a process to turn one job into many. What is everything you can do at an inspection to get in front of the neighbors and to interact with them and to make them maybe come to the conclusion on their own that you might be there for a reason that could be relevant to them too, and that maybe they should ask you for help with the same problem? What are all the things you can do at that point? Like, some things we work, running the 6-pack or 12-pack. We send direct mail to the neighbors. We send some messages to the homeowners to send to their neighbors. We have a whole process. And our little secret and trick is that everything we do is not overly complicated. It's just strung together in a very intentional way. And there's a lot of depth into the why and the how of each individual piece. But and that's like why people come to us, because one, we have done all the trial and error on what works best and what doesn't. We can help you organize it, we can help you implement it and integrate it into your sales and production process. But Even if you don't hire us, just think, what are all the things I can do at an inspection to get in front of the neighbors? How can I think of all those things and then document them into a checklist to make sure it's done every time? And even if I'm the one doing it, how can I just make sure I check those boxes over and over again so I can validate it so that I know, okay, if I hand this to someone else, they're going to be able to do it they should be able to do it at least 75% as good as I've been doing it. Because if you have a checklist, okay, do the door hangers, have these conversations, try to get the homeowner to send this text message to their neighbors, warning them that you're going to be in the area, uh, let send the direct mail. If you can have that checklist and you do it and you see, okay, yeah, every other inspection, I'm getting another inspection. And then you hand it to someone and they're just like, it doesn't work. You know that's wrong. So you know, okay, no, it does work. We just need to figure out how to actually organize it. Now, if you just said, hey, try to make some noise when you're there, do this, do this, do this, and then they go try to put some effort out there and they don't get an inspection, or maybe they got one inspection after like five different things that they did, and they're like, ah, it's not really worth my time. Okay. So you don't know whether they're right or wrong. But if you have a validated process that you validated, then you know it's right. We've already validated a process across many different markets and industries. So you get to kind of skip a little bit of that when you come to us. But this isn't like some sales pitch. This is the type of thing that's going to allow you to grow and scale the most. Same thing for build day. What are all the things you can do to get in front of the neighbors? The neighbors are stakeholders. They are affected by this project, whether it's because maybe they need a similar project or just because all the trucks and noise and all that matters. People work from home, people have babies. It's not great when you have 10 new cars on your block and a delivery truck that takes 30 minutes to drop a load, or in some markets, the roof load. So they are halfway sticking off the driveway. It's not convenient when all these different things happen. So, knowing that, how can we acknowledge that and show them what we do when we are responsible or a party to something that's slightly inconvenient for them? How can we demonstrate how we act? What are all the things we can do to talk to the neighbors and try to get them to once again come to the conclusion that you're a great company, you're trustworthy, you are referral worthy, you are ready to take care of them in whatever capacity they need you, whether it's they're working with you on their roof, or whether it's, hey, I just want to make sure that the project we're doing with Susie doesn't affect you. Let us know how we can help. We're here to serve. So that's the type of thing. And then back at it, we'll have plenty podcast episodes breaking these things down more specifically, but referrals. If you put all this effort into communicating well with the homeowner that you work with and making sure that they are up to speed and making sure they're getting the best deal and making sure the install's going really, really well and making sure that you're keeping the job site clean and just doing all the things that you know you need to do to be a respected company. And then all the things that you also probably do to go above and beyond. Let's make sure that they're aware of those things and understand them, not in a like, hey, see what we did for you thing, but just in a more subtle, like smooth way. And then once they know the things that they've done and you can confirm they acknowledge and see you as referral worthy, let's get them to talk about you to their audience. And I know that sounds funny, just a random homeowner having an audience, but they do. They can post on Nextdoor as a peer. They can post in a neighborhood Facebook group as a peer. Hey, Brad's Roofing was really, really good. Had a great experience with them. That goes a lot further than me posting, hey, I'm really, really good. You will have a great experience with me. So getting them to do that goes a lot further on their own personal profile. If they make a post saying, hey, I just worked with this roofing company and they're fantastic, there's a good chance they're connected with people that might be in the market and could use your services as well. So let's try to get them to promote that referral worthy experience for you. So these are the types of things that we need to look at. And as we're looking at how to create more leverage, these are some of the best places to start and to begin. And as we've begun and as we've gotten organized in this regard and like have this stuff like, okay, we're pretty clear on how we're going to do this and how we're going to do this and how we're going to do this. You might not have everything organized in this perfect way that's ready to hand off to a team, but once we've validated that, let's put some pressure on it and let's move on to the leads. And that's what we'll talk about in the next episode is different types of lead gen. One lead gen, like how to think through lead gen, how to make sure that every job is predictably returning into another, why it matters when you go do a job in an area that you really, really don't want to work in, and why that job really might not be worth your time, and how to make sure that we're just stacking more and more jobs and putting our efforts into a good area, and also how to be confident that, hey, maybe sometimes if we put a lot of effort into getting into a new neighborhood and maybe even a lot of money as we have more money to invest, how do we know that that's worth it? Because maybe if all that effort and all that money only got us one job, it wouldn't be that worth it. It would be a low return. But what if we can confidently say that will get us two or three or four jobs as a result of some of these processes that we put together, where one leads to another, leads to another? Then we have permission. We have the room to invest a little bit more. So today, that's it. I want you to think through how can we create more leverage in our processes? How can we look at the each individual phase of your sales and production process and put in the effort and energy and to turn that into more? Because once you do start investing money or time into marketing, your time and money will go further than someone who doesn't have these processes in place. If one job is worth three jobs to you and one job is worth one job to someone else, who can spend the most to get that first job? The answer is obvious. It's you, the person with the processes. So this is a way to create a really big advantage. And then once you have these processes that are validated, you can have a team running them for you, and that will allow you to uh, create another layer of leverage and step back and actually have the team doing this for you rather than just you doing it. And then we can get it better with tech and automations and all that fun stuff. And we kind of will speed that up for our clients. But in general, like this stuff isn't rocket science. It is just important. So a lot of people want to show you all the shiny objects, but at the end of the day, this is the stuff that is the difference between a very successful, profitable roofing business and one that is constantly on a roller coaster, always stuck at trying to solve their lead issues. And we want to put this first before you work to solve your lead issues, because I don't want to put so much pressure on a Facebook ad working, or I don't want to put so much pressure on a Google ad working, or I don't want to put so much pressure on knocking doors working. I want a day of knocking doors only generating one job to be more than enough. Because if it is for you and it's not for others, you're in a good spot. I want a $2,000 cost per acquisition, which is not an unrealistic cost per acquisition in certain markets, from between the management fee and the Google ad spend and what your closing rate is and commission potentially if you want to throw that in there. I want that to be completely okay for you, because that one $2,000 you spent is going to generate you a few jobs where your competition only gets one job out of that. That is leverage. And that's how we can begin to build a business that truly thrives and has a foundation that you can really just grow with options. So I appreciate you guys. Today's a shorter one than the first one. Next week, we're going to talk about leads, the different types of lead gen, and how to think through when and where it's good to put the certain amounts of efforts. We might have a guest on. I don't know yet, but we'll see next week. Thank you guys. See ya. And get built right. Have a good one.